Welcome back to our channel, the place where we dive deep into the most shocking twists, the most unforgettable betrayals, and the darkest secrets of the series you love. If you are looking for powerful recaps that not only retell events but also expose the hidden layers of emotion and conflict behind every character, then you are in the right place. Today, we continue with one of the most explosive revelations in Beyond the Gates, a moment that shakes the foundation of every relationship and ignites a storm that cannot be stopped. In the deep silence of the night, a revelation tore apart the fragile threads holding their world together. Eva's heart pounded violently as she stood frozen, her eyes burning with disbelief. The truth had not just slipped into her life quietly, it had crashed through the walls of her mind with the force of a storm. Tomas, the man who had unsettled her in ways she could never quite define, the one she had mistrusted and resented, was not merely a stranger tangled in her fate. He was blood. He was kin. He was the long-lost son of Bill. Her knees trembled under the weight of the discovery, and the rage inside her erupted like a wildfire that could no longer be contained. The world she thought she understood twisted into something grotesque, and every memory of Tomas came back to her now with a different hue. Every look, every encounter, every clash between them seemed to carry a new and unbearable meaning. Eva's chest tightened as though she had been betrayed by life itself. Bill, the man who had built a kingdom of shadows and power, had hidden this truth. He had let her move through life unaware, blind to the existence of this bond. The thought of his silence gnawed at her soul. She could not decide which emotion consumed her more, fury at the deception or sorrow at the cruelty of fate. She felt robbed of choice, denied of clarity, trapped in a storm not of her making. Tomas, on the other hand, felt his world collapsing beneath his feet. He had fought so hard to define himself against the shadows of abandonment, to carve his own place in a world that had never wanted him. And now, the blood running through his veins linked him to the very man who had cast him aside. His identity was no longer his own, it had been rewritten by a past he had no control over. Anger surged through him, cold and bitter, mingling with the ache of a wound that had been torn open once again. He felt like a pawn in a cruel game, his existence reduced to a secret concealed for decades. The storm that erupted between Eva and Tomas was silent but violent. Their eyes met not with recognition, but with the sharp edges of betrayal. For Eva, every instinct screamed at her to despise him more than ever, to see in him not a brother but a symbol of everything stolen from her life. For Tomas, Eva became the embodiment of a family that had rejected him, an unwilling mirror of the blood that he had been denied. Neither could find peace in the revelation. Instead, it carved new wounds where scars had barely formed. Bill remained at the center of it all, the architect of the chaos. His silence was not one of ignorance but of choice. He had chosen to bury the truth, to leave his son lost to the world, and to protect a facade that served his pride more than it served his family. The walls of his empire trembled with the weight of that decision. Every lie, every omission he had guarded so fiercely, now threatened to consume him. The ghosts of his past were no longer silent, they screamed through the cracks of his carefully constructed life. Eva's rage was relentless. She felt betrayed not only by Bill but by fate itself. Her life, her relationships, her sense of self had been tainted by a lie that had festered in the dark. She wondered if every choice she had made was built on false ground. The fury inside her became a living thing, growing sharper with each thought, until she could barely breathe without feeling it pierce her. Tomas spiraled into a darkness of his own. He thought of the years spent searching for belonging, the endless nights of wondering who he was, and the unbearable weight of never having an answer. Now, that answer stood before him, but it was poisoned. He could not embrace it. He could not accept it. The father who had abandoned him was alive, thriving, powerful, and unapologetic. The family he should have had was one he could never claim without drowning in resentment. His identity fractured into pieces, and he clung desperately to the rage that kept him from collapsing altogether. The tension between Eva and Tomas became unbearable. Their lives were intertwined in ways that defied reason, yet every instinct told them to repel each other. Eva wanted to lash out, to destroy the reminder of everything stolen from her. Tomas wanted to distance himself, to sever the tie that chained him to a man who had denied his existence. Yet no matter how far they tried to pull apart, blood tied them together, and that bond became both curse and weapon. Bill watched as the consequences of his choices spiraled beyond his control. His empire, once built on silence and dominance, began to fracture. Eva's fury threatened to expose his secrets, while Tomas's bitterness loomed like a storm ready to unleash its destructive force. Bill had believed he could control the narrative, that his power could bend reality to his will, but now he stood at the edge of ruin, surrounded by enemies of his own making, his own blood. As the days unfolded, suspicion and resentment poisoned every corner of their lives. Eva could no longer look at Bill without feeling the weight of betrayal pressing down on her chest. Her once unquestionable loyalty shattered, replaced by a cold determination to hold him accountable. Every glance, every word unsaid between them became another layer of silent warfare. Tomas carried his anger like a shield, but inside, the emptiness grew deeper. He sought solace in the thought of vengeance, in the idea of making Bill feel the same abandonment he had endured. Yet even vengeance felt hollow, because no act could erase the years of loss, the years where he had been nothing more than a forgotten shadow. His anger pushed him to dangerous thoughts, reckless impulses, and choices that would push everyone around him into greater chaos. Eva and Tomas found themselves circling each other like predators, each waiting for the other to break. Their fury was not just directed at Bill but at each other, for being unwilling reminders of the truth they despised. Their bond, twisted by betrayal, became the battlefield where every unspoken accusation was fought. Every silence between them screamed louder than words ever could. Bill's nights grew restless. He felt the weight of judgment pressing on him from all sides. His empire was cracking, his children slipping beyond his grasp, his power losing its grip. He had lived a life of control, but now, control slipped through his fingers like sand. His choices had carved a path of destruction, and now the shadows of those choices threatened to consume him entirely. Eva's fury reached a point where it transformed into something more dangerous. It became a resolve, a weapon sharpened by betrayal. She no longer wanted explanations, no longer sought understanding. She wanted reckoning. The fire within her no longer burned aimlessly, it demanded destruction. Tomas's pain reached deeper into despair. His fury became desperation, a dangerous blend that pushed him toward choices with irreversible consequences. He no longer cared for morality, no longer cared for restraint. All he wanted was for the world to feel his pain, for the silence of abandonment to echo as loudly in others as it had in him. The stage was set for collision. Every wound, every betrayal, every lie that had been buried rose to the surface. Eva, consumed by rage, Tomas, torn by vengeance, Bill, drowning in the ruin of his silence. Their lives, once connected by secrecy, now spiraled into chaos where destruction was inevitable. And in the shadows of their war, the truth remained, it was not fate that had broken them, but choices. Choices made in silence, choices made in pride, choices that could never be undone. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the twisted world of Beyond the Gates. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to continue uncovering every shocking secret, betrayal, and revelation, don't forget to follow and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for more explosive recaps and analysis. You won't want to miss what happens next.